I told you that the absolute best thing you could possibly do for your relationship today, like the most romantic, forward-thinking investment you could make, is to just turn around and walk away from your partner?
I mean, if you said that to most people, they'd probably look at you like you were crazy.
Right. No, but really, just walk away. Because we are constantly fed this, this very specific, almost cinematic script about what successful romance is supposed to look like.
Oh, absolutely. The whole two become one narrative.
Exactly. We're taught that ultimate togetherness, constant communication, and sharing literally every single waking interest are the gold standards. Like, the underlying message is basically that if you aren't merging into one single inseparable entity, you're doing something fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, which is completely exhausting if you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
But what if the actual secret to a bulletproof, long-lasting bond isn't pulling closer and closer until you just blur together, but rather, like, cultivating the art of distance?
It sounds entirely counterintuitive to everything we're taught.
Yeah.
But honestly, it is perhaps the ultimate modern relationship paradox.
Yeah. And that paradox is exactly the core of our mission for this deep dive today.
Because we've been so thoroughly conditioned by pop culture to believe that any kind of distance is, well, the natural enemy of intimacy.
Right. Which brings us to where we're drawing our insights from today. We are looking at a fantastic, deeply insightful article from the Relationship and Social Etiquette section of the Weddizer website.
Which is such a great resource, by the way.
Oh, it's incredible. If you haven't explored Weddizer, their articles on navigating the nuances of modern relationships and social etiquette are just a goldmine for this kind of guidance. So today we're going to completely flip the script on how you view personal space.
And we really need to, because the misconceptions out there are just massive.
We are unpacking why individual me time is not some self-indulgent luxury. And it absolutely isn't a red flag that your relationship is failing. According to the relationship experts at Weddizer, it's actually a fundamental, non-negotiable necessity for a thriving partnership.
Yeah, and to really understand why, we have to establish a realistic baseline about the environment we're all operating in right now.
Which is pure chaos, let's be honest.
Pretty much. I mean, in today's hyper-connected, fast-paced world, the sheer amount of time, attention, and emotional bandwidth required just to maintain a household and a relationship.
Let alone a career.
Right, on top of your career, family obligations, and the constant digital noise, it just creates a perfect storm for the unintentional erosion of your own identity.
Wow, yeah, erosion is a really good word for it. It just sort of washes away bit by bit.
Exactly. You compromise, you adapt, and you give until you wake up one day and realize you aren't entirely sure who you are outside the context of the couple.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even touch on the practical mechanics of getting that space, we have to, dismantle the massive cultural stigma attached to asking for it.
The panic response.
Yes. The panic response is so deeply ingrained in us. For a lot of you listening, the moment a partner says, hey, I think I'm going to spend Saturday afternoon alone, the immediate internal monologue is,
they're pulling away, they're mad at me, this is the beginning of the end.
Exactly. We immediately go to the worst case scenario.
And that panic is a massive hurdle. But it stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what we actually mean by taking space. The Weddizer article defines individual me time as the intentional practice of spending time alone or engaging in activities completely independent from your partner.
And the key word there is intentional, right?
Yes. The operative word is intentional. It is not a withdrawal born out of anger or avoidance. It's a proactive strategy.
But the misconceptions are just so powerful.
They really are. The most damaging false belief is that taking time apart actively weakens the emotional bond. People view their relationship like a delicate houseplant or something.
If they aren't watering it 24/7, it's just going to wither and die.
Right, which is just not how human psychology works.
So I want to give everyone listening a way to visualize why that constant watering mindset is actually suffocating. Think of a long-term relationship like a campfire.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah. So when you are trying to build a really great sustainable fire that puts out genuine heat, what happens if you take two logs and push them completely tightly together?
They just smolder. They don't burn.
Exactly. You smother the flame. The fire chokes because it physically cannot breathe. To get a fire to burn brightly, you have to leave a little space, like a pocket of oxygen, between those logs.
That makes perfect sense.
And that space doesn't mean those logs aren't part of the exact same fire. In fact, that space is the fundamental requirement that allows the fire to exist in the first place.
That campfire analogy beautifully illustrates the physics of it. And it really maps perfectly onto the psychology of human connection, too.
So if space is the oxygen for the relationship, we need to look at what that oxygen is actually doing under the hood, right? Like on a neurological and emotional level.
Yeah, because the source material from Weddizer outlines some profound psychological returns on investment when we intentionally create that space.
So if we look past the surface level idea of just, getting a break from someone, what is the actual mechanism at play? Why does being alone make us better when we are together?
What's fascinating here is how the Weddizer analysis breaks down the neurological reset that happens during solitude. The first major mechanism is emotional recharge.
Okay, walk me through that.
So when you are constantly in the presence of another human being, even someone you love deeply, your brain is continuously processing their microexpressions.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you're tracking their moods, their needs, even subconsciously. It takes this low-level, continuous cognitive effort.
Which has to be exhausting over time.
Exactly. So spending time alone allows your brain's default mode network to activate. It fundamentally reduces cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and it alleviates that hidden mental fatigue.
Which means when you do finally come back together for dinner or for a date night, you aren't running on an empty tank.
Right. You are bringing a fully recharged battery to the interaction.
You are genuinely present. You aren't just like physically occupying the same room while your brain is entirely fried.
Exactly. But the second mechanism is perhaps even more critical for long-term romance, and that involves novelty and dopamine.
Dopamine, the magic
A
chemical.
magic chemical. By maintaining your own personal interests and hobbies, whether that's joining a running club, taking a pottery class, or honestly just reading in a coffee shop by yourself,
Yeah.
you preserve your separate sense of identity.
And that separate identity is a massive driver of attraction, isn't it?
It's a huge driver.
That makes total sense. Because when your partner goes out, engages in something they are deeply passionate about, and comes back glowing with new stories and new energy, they suddenly seem slightly mysterious again.
Yes, it completely breaks the monotony.
It's like, oh, right, you are a whole entire person outside of me.
And that slight mystery is everything. Neurologically speaking, when you see your partner thriving independently, it creates a sense of psychological distance.
And distance introduces novelty.
Right, and novelty triggers the release of dopamine in the brain, which is the exact same chemical that fueled the intense attraction during the honeymoon phase of your relationship.
Wait, really? The exact same chemical?
The very same. You are essentially biohacking your way back to that early stage spark simply by giving each other the room to be individuals.
That is wild. I also want to highlight another outcome of this, which is emotional regulation.
Oh, absolutely. That's a big one.
Because when you aren't relying on your partner to be your sole source of entertainment, your only sounding board, and the sole manager of your anxiety, you reduce this massive burden of dependency.
It takes so much pressure off the relationship.
It does. But I imagine it's incredibly hard to diagnose this deficit from the inside. You might think you're just stressed about work, but the reality is you're suffering from deep relationship burnout.
Which happens all the time.
So what is the metric for a listener to tell those two things apart? How do you know you're actually burning out on the relationship?
That distinction is vital because treating relationship burnout with, a quick nap won't fix the underlying structural issue.
Right.
And the Weddizer article actually provides highly specific diagnostic criteria for this. The first metric is examining your personal joy outside the relationship.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, if you look back and realize that you haven't engaged in a solo hobby you used to love, say, playing the guitar or hiking in over 6 months, simply because you automatically default to whatever your partner wants to do,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
that is a glaring indicator of identity erosion.
It's like the slow fade of your own preferences. You just forget what you even like to do.
Exactly. And that often leads to a term therapists use a lot, which is enmeshment.
Enmeshment. For anyone unfamiliar, enmeshment is basically when the boundary between where you end and your partner begins completely blurs, right?
Exactly.
Like if they have a bad day at the office, you literally cannot have a good day at home. Your moods become completely tethered to theirs.
And people often mistake that for deep empathy.
Right. They think, oh, we're just so connected, but it's actually highly toxic to your own emotional stability.
Because enmeshment traps both partners in an emotional pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm.
And that pressure cooker leads directly to the next diagnostic sign, which is a persistent feeling of being emotionally drained, specifically by interactions that shouldn't be draining.
Meaning what? Like simple conversation.
Yeah, conversations that used to be easy suddenly feel like navigating a minefield.
Oh man, here's where it gets really interesting because there is one more symptom from the source material that everyone has experienced, but we almost always misinterpret it.
Let me guess. The small stuff.
The incredibly small stuff. It's the sudden, intense irritation over completely trivial issues. Like you are sitting in the kitchen and you find yourself absolutely furious about the way your partner is chewing their food.
Oh yeah, the chewing. Or the specific way they loaded the dishwasher.
Yes. You look at the dishwasher and you're like, this is a massive character flaw on their part. They don't respect me because of where they put the bowls.
We completely project the problem onto the action, rather than our own depleted state.
Right. But we need to reframe this entirely for you guys listening. Think of this irritation like an allergic reaction or like sensory overload.
That's a really good way to put it.
When your emotional immune system is completely depleted because you haven't had any time to recharge, your brain starts treating harmless stimuli like chewing as a massive threat.
It triggers a totally disproportionate response.
Exactly. It's like a histamine response of anger. That sudden rage over the dishwasher is your internal check engine light flashing.
I love that. The check engine light.
It is not a sign that your partner is inherently annoying. It's a blaring alarm that your emotional immune system needs a solo time reset.
That is a phenomenal way to reframe the conflict, because it removes the blame from the partner and places the focus back on personal maintenance.
Right. It's not about them being terrible. It's about you needing a minute.
But recognizing that the check engine light is flashing is only half the battle. If you don't know how to properly communicate this need, trying to fix the engine can accidentally cause an explosion.
Oh, 100%. Because if you just blurt out, hey, I need to get away from you.
Yeah, you are going to trigger all of those abandonment anxieties we talked about at the top of the show.
So how do we execute this? How does a listener actually ask for this space without making their partner feel completely rejected?
Well, the execution strategy provided in the Weddizer article relies heavily on counterintuitive communication.
Okay, counterintuitive how?
The first step is setting clear boundaries, but doing so proactively. This cannot be a unilateral demand shouted as you're walking out the door during an argument.
Right. Not a great look.
No, it has to be a calm conversation during a period of peace. And the counterintuitive trick here is do not over-explain.
Wait, don't over-explain. Usually we are told communication is all about giving all the details. Why hold back?
Because over-explaining often signals guilt, and guilt triggers anxiety in the listener. If you write a thesis on why you need to go to a bookstore alone for 2 hours, your partner's brain assumes there is a massive hidden problem.
Oh, like why are they justifying this so hard? What are they really doing?
Exactly. Instead, you frame it positively, as an investment. You say, I am going to take a couple of hours on Sunday to read at the cafe so I can recharge and be fully present for our movie night.
Ah, you link the independent action directly to a relationship benefit.
You're showing them what's in it for the relationship.
You are pitching the ROI right up front. I love that. So once you had that initial boundary setting conversation, how do you make sure it actually happens? Like, how do you stop it from just fading away into good intentions?
You have to operationalize it. You schedule it.
Like on a calendar.
Yes. Treat your personal time with the exact same reverence and rigidity as you would a doctor's appointment or a highly anticipated date night. If you decide Tuesday evenings are your time to go to a solo workout class, put it on the shared calendar.
And just stick to it.
Stick to it. This is crucial because consistency creates psychological safety. When your partner sees that this is just a routine part of the weekly schedule, it stops feeling like a sudden, unpredictable withdrawal.
It just becomes part of the relationship's architecture.
Exactly. It's just what happens on Tuesdays.
Scheduling it elevates its importance. It sends a clear message to yourself and your partner that your relationship with yourself is a fundamental priority. And I imagine this has to be a two-way street.
Right, completely.
Like if you are fiercely protecting your Tuesday night workout, you have to be the biggest cheerleader for their Thursday night bowling league.
Mutual encouragement is the glue that holds this entire framework together. If you demand space for yourself but subtly guilt-trip your partner when they try to exercise their own autonomy, the trust completely collapses.
Right. You can't sigh heavily when they say they're going out.
No, you have to actively celebrate their independence.
Okay, the logic is incredibly sound, and I am fully on board with framing this as an investment. But let me push back a bit.
Sure.